Showtime. What's going on, everybody? He is Michael Langston, recruiting analyst for Warchant.com. I'm Aslan Hajavani. Welcome on into the Warchant.com recruiting call-in show with Michael Langston. 850-805-5911. That is the call-in number. Watching us on YouTube, we'd appreciate if you hit that thumbs up. Also, subscribe in the lower right corner. And Michael, man, have you seen this promo we're running right now? Amazing.
I haven't seen it. Tell me about it.
Yeah, man, there you go. Nike 75 gives you an annual membership at warchant.com, which is usually about $100 a year for only $75. Do the math. That's about a 25% discount. And you get a $75 e-card for Nike. So you can do some Christmas shopping, maybe for yourself or a friend or whomever you like. So Nike 75, it's scrolling on the bottom of the screen. Football team not doing all that well, Michael. You got better news for me on the recruiting front? Give me something to hope for.
I would love to give you better news, but obviously, there's a lot of it's hard to generate buzz when you're just struggling on the field. So, people wanting to know, I addressed it today. I already posted 3 nuggets on the Premier Recruiting Board. It's in our chat thread, guys. So if you go ahead and go in there, you can read some of the stuff I just posted. I'm not gonna. I touch on Luke Altmyer. I'll really go into that. I know we're going to talk about that on the show because I'm sure somebody's going to ask about that. So I'll go into detail on the show here as well. But we have that. I already have those nuggets. I'm probably going to post a few more nuggets after the chat is over. I just didn't have time. I think I already have 3 nuggets up there on the thing. So I think you can go in there and read, and then there'll be more stuff. I think you will see on there, but later afterwards. But and then I also have 10 targets to watch that I put together. I've already got it done. It's just up to Ira whenever they're ready to shoot that thing out. There's going to be a lot of stuff. I cover all the guys. The 10 that I put in there are guys that I feel there's mutual interest with, both from FSU and from the recruit. So I just don't want to get people's hopes up and say, hey, you got a shot at this guy, when you don't really. So that will be coming up, I think, pretty soon. I think it'll be very extensive. I cover the 10 targets, but I also cover other guys to keep an eye out, and there's a lot of them that I put in there. So I think you guys are going to enjoy that, and so that's kind of some of the stuff that we have already going on. And besides that, let's get it cracking.
All right, man. Let's take a phone call. I think it's going to be Gator Kirk. Looks like 757. Could be. Maybe it is. Maybe it's somebody else from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Welcome on into the Warchant.com recruiting call show with Michael Langston. Who's this? Where are you calling us from?
What's up, Aslan? What's up, Michael?
Whoa!
It's Gator Kirk.
Whoa, look at all that energy, man. Got some juice tonight, man.
He sounds a lot authoritative.
And, Corey last night said it sounded like I was in the doldrums. So I'm like, all right, I got to show him that, that's not really the case. I'm back in there. So
good to hear, man. Good to hear, man. What's your question for Michael, man?
Man, with this extended dead period, are the coaches allowed, and then they may not want to, but are they allowed to send some videos of them working during practice or things like that, so they can try to build some relationships with these recruits?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I have a specific rule in that, Kirk. Thanks for the question. I don't know if there's a specific rule that they can send video from. I haven't heard anything that they can. I know they can FaceTime and they can Zoom with kids, and I think there's a set time of how much you get, but I haven't heard anything that they can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I know some of them, if you read the articles and stuff, they talk about the recruits will say, oh, yeah, well, Atkins has told me these are the things I need to work on. I don't know if they, go in more detail and, send them out and say, all right, hey, this is the skill that we can help you develop, and show it as a hands-on type thing. Because obviously they can't get kids in, they can't come to practice, and that's going to go through April. So, I mean, through the entire, basically 2021 recruiting class, the kids that came on those 14 days we had, that's all I got.
Yeah, and I don't see a problem with them doing that. I don't see a problem with them showing what their players are doing. I think they can see different things of civics, and I think even then they could point out watching their film together, they can point out stuff like, hey, you're not doing this right. Here's what you need to work on. So I think specifically that's not a problem. I think that's probably already happened with a lot of the recruits, especially on the offensive line side of the ball. And I think there's other positions where they've probably done that as well. So I think that's certainly a thing that they've probably been already active with. I think that's kind of been in motion for a while.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you get a chance later, touch on Taiwan Malone, because I know baseball just signed 16 guys last week.
Right.
I don't know if they've offered him yet or if he just wasn't one that had signed.
Well, they can't offer him anyway, so it doesn't matter because he's a football prospect. So his moneymaker is going to be football, playing that, and then he basically walks on to baseball. So he doesn't necessarily need an offer from Mike Martin Jr. to show that they have interest. I think they've done enough where I think with Taiwan Malone, they're very interested. I think it's eventually, I think it's going to, I've covered this before. I think FSU and Ole Miss are going to be the teams. I know there's people that have already put picks out for Ole Miss. I think that one's a long ways to go. I wouldn't read much into any picks right now for Taiwan Malone because I don't think he's in a hurry. I think he's going to really look into the baseball aspect of all these places. I think FSU is a little more attractive from the baseball sense, for Taiwan, and I think football wise, based on what Ole Miss has done, at least during the season, as far as excitement, I think they have a little more excitement than FSU on that part. But I think that one's going to be going on for a while, so I don't think it's like a set stone of who's the clear favorite or not. So, but definitely FSU has done a tremendous job. I checked on this again with Taiwan Malone. They have done a tremendous job consistently talking with him about the baseball and what the baseball offers and the things he's going to get out of that as far as playing with baseball and the different areas of strengths that FSU would have and FSU would offer with the baseball, him playing baseball. So they've taken it very seriously. They've made sure that he knows how much he knows the ins and outs of FSU baseball, and I think they've done a great job with that pitch.
All right, gentlemen, I appreciate everything you do, all the great coverage on Warchant. The people that aren't members, you're missing out on a lot of great coverage. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button, eat Zaxby's, and as always, go Noles. Let's do our best against the little Tigers from Clemson this weekend, and we'll move on after that.
Absolutely.
Michael,
Absolutely.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, my computer is about I don't even know what's going on. My computer's like literally crashing right now. I can't do anything on my screen.
Okay.
So I can't take any phone calls, I don't think. Actually, maybe I can on the secondary computer, so I'm going to try to see if I can make this all work. It'll be exciting. It's like live television, everybody. Who knows what can happen? Before I try to figure this out, Michael, we got a nugget posted. I don't want you to give all of it away, but, certain people want to know certain things. But Luke Altmyer, Ole Miss, just how scary is that? Or is that a bad adjective to use?
No, I think it's a good adjective. It is scary because he visited there last weekend. I don't think that's anything that most people don't know, especially the diehards. He visited Ole Miss with a teammate. I don't think his family was there, from what I can gather. But I think he was there, and certainly with him being there, and he hasn't been to an FSU game yet, to my knowledge. That's still significant. And let's face it, Ole Miss's offense looks tremendously fun and awesome to watch. I mean, I've watched them several times, and that's a fun offense to watch. I can see the attraction there. FSU's kind of been up and down. There's been lulls the last few weeks as far as the offense. When Jordan Travis is in there, it looks explosive and dynamic, and it's fun and electric and all that stuff. But the last few weeks it's kind of been up and down. So the Ole Miss offense hasn't stopped clicking for a while. I think they only had the one bad game against Arkansas, and besides that, they've been very dynamic and fun to watch. So I think it's legit, and I think they're in a battle for Luke Altmyer. It's going to be a battle to hold on to him, and I keep it as real as I can, guys. No decision's been made, no final decision. It's not a done deal that he's going to flip and all those things. But if I was leaning one way or the other, I mean, he's an in-state kid that's in Mississippi, and he likes the offense. So I think these next 3 games are going to be big for FSU to show their product. I think Luke's going to wait and see what he sees on the field, but I would probably lean towards it likely happening more than it not likely happening, as far as a flip. So I think there's work to do. They're in a battle, and it's serious. But on the bright side of things, here's the thing that I know, Scott. I know people are going to freak out if it does happen. Here's the thing I would say. Quarterback is not the position that I worry about as far as Norvell. I mean, he has shown ever since he's been here, whether if Altmyer sticks, great. If he doesn't stick, he has the ability to go out there and get quarterbacks. He's shown that with Chuba Purdy and Tate Rodemaker and these guys. So I'm not worried that he's going to get another talented guy if Altmyer does end up going somewhere else. Obviously, that's a big loss. We've seen his film. We love what Altmyer brings to the table. He would be a great fit for FSU. The relationships go deep, so that would hurt just because you spent so much time on it. But at the same time, I have confidence that he would get a pretty talented quarterback if it wasn't Altmyer.
All right, very well. I think what we're going to do here is we're going to take a phone call, Michael. I'm going to let them ask their question. And then after they're done asking their question, I'm going to try to close out my computer and fire it back up so I can actually do some stuff besides just leave you on a solo shot. So looks like we got Daryl from North Carolina on the phone. So Daryl, if you want to ask your 1 or 2 questions, and then I'll have to hang up on you, but you can get through and ask Michael your question and hang up and listen to his answer. How are you, Daryl?
I'm doing good, Aslan. How are you? And hello, Michael. How are you doing, man?
We're doing I'm doing fantastic, man. What's up?
I got a couple questions real quick for you. I know Altmyer, I guess, is on the fence back and forth. What other quarterback would be a possibility if Altmyer is not the quarterback for FSU? Is there another quarterback that you think Norvell will go after? And my second question would be with the NCAA not allowing visit for recruits going until the middle of the next year, April of next year. What kind of things can coaches do to kind of help form relationships with recruits, to get them to kind of buy into their I guess to get them to come on, sign on the dotted line, I guess I would say. And I hope y'all have a great day, and go Noles, and keep within 35 points of the Clemson Tigers.
There we go.
All right.
Thank you, Daryl. Appreciate you, man. Michael, take your time, Michael. I'll be back in a minute. All right, man.
Okay. Daryl, I'll try to get into everything you said. Obviously, first with Luke Altmyer, that's the thing. There hasn't been. Now I know they have game plans in as far as who they're going to go after, as far as targets, as far as that they have in mind. FSU's not sitting on their couch eating Pop-Tarts and just and not preparing that this could possibly happen. So I'm sure there's some guys in mind. I think Jake Garcia is certainly one guy that I think they would be highly interested in if Altmyer wasn't in this class. I think he's definitely one I can say for sure. They were on. I can also say they were on. I'm trying to think of his name. Colton Gaudier. He's a commitment to South Carolina. They had a previous relationship there with him, so he's another one that's certainly in the picture. Another one is I want to say I'm pulling this up while I do it, so just hang tight with me, guys. I'm trying to answer these questions as in depth as I can, but the other one would be, and this kid visited FSU during the spring as well, is 4-star quarterback Sawyer Robertson from Lubbock, Texas. He has a relationship with Dillingham. They go way back as far as that bond. He's committed to Mississippi State, but he's certainly a guy that I think they could get re-involved with. He likes what FSU does. Obviously, Altmyer was their focus at that time because they felt like they could get him. So I think Sawyer Robinson would be certainly another guy. He's 6'3.5", 200 pounds. He's a guy that I think they like a lot. So I think he's certainly one that to watch out for. But there's going to be new names everywhere as far as this position. Like I said, it's really hard for me to really just break down every quarterback because they've been so locked in on Luke Altmyer. And so I think right now Altmyer is still their focus. Now they're probably back channels talking to recruits that they know have mutual interest in FSU. I just don't know those yet. Now, part of your second question of what they can do with this pandemic, well, hopefully, this thing supposedly going to get the dead period supposedly getting extended to April. So hopefully by that time, it'll be once they get to April, there'll be some open recruiting visits and then kind of go from there. There's only thing you can really do is just keep relationships with these kids with Zoom calls and FaceTime and stay in touch with them and keep building relationships with these kids because you can only do what you have available to do. So I don't think there's anything more that FSU could do right now as far as just going out there and making sure visually, as far as FaceTime and Zooms that they're talking with these kids up close and personal. So besides that, I don't know what else FSU could possibly do as far as changing things up or doing more. I think they're doing as much as you can do right now, but hopefully and everyone's crossing their fingers that by April that will be the last extension that we have on this dead tier, and hopefully after that things will open up where UNCA will at least give these guys a chance to go out there and see these schools, and then schools can host visitors. And I think what you're going to see now, though, I think once they do open things up, what you're going to see is I think you're going to see a lot of kids take official visits very early in the process. I think this is going to push kids once they open up the period. I think it's going to be really early as far as official visits. I think you're going to see a lot of these kids just from the moment they have a chance to take an official visit, they're going to do it because of this kind of pandemic that could happen.
Yeah. Way to go, Michael. Way to be a pro covering for us, dude, when he's got some technical difficulties. Appreciate you, Michael.
Yeah.
Phone line is still open, 850-805-5911. Let's go to it. This is a guy that's been pretty cool to talk to on the show. He's been on the podcast a few times, Michael. It's JR over in Atlanta.
Okay.
What's going on, JR?
What's up, Aslan? What's up, Michael? How y'all doing?
Good, man.
What's up, JR?
At work again, but got to be loyal to my callers. Got to be loyal.
Appreciate it, man. What's on your mind?
Oh, yeah. So I wanted to talk about the transfer portal a little bit.
Yeah.
Michael, this is, this might be a little better for you. So with the news about Luke and that trending, everything like that, and with our wide receiver play being so poor, it's hard to depend on a freshman coming in next year.
Mm-hmm.
And if Luke doesn't come or he does come, do you think Norvell will go after a QB in the transfer portal, somebody like James Foster at Texas A&M, or there's a kid from Tennessee, I believe, or do you think he'll go after some wide receivers as well with Terry not coming back and with us maybe not able to get a Destin Hill or a JJ Henry with the offense not really showing any strides?
Are they slipping for Destin Hill, Michael?
Yeah, they're in a battle with Florida. I mean, Florida's had a really good season, so Florida's probably slightly ahead there, but they're good. And I mean that's the reality of the season. But good questions, JR. I'll get to it. Yeah, I do think they'll heavily consider going after a quarterback in the transfer market as long as it fits. I don't think it's a grad transfer one. That's tough for me to say because he hasn't done that so far, and he had plenty of chances last year. I'm not saying that he didn't go after Direct King or JT Daniels or those guys. I'm not saying he didn't because I don't know 100%, but it just doesn't seem like they push really hard. I don't think he's a big fan of the 1 year wonders because he wants to be able to develop these guys the way he wants. But I can see a transfer coming in. I think it's just going to have to be a guy that fits everything he's looking for. Same thing with high school. So I don't think transfer is too far off. And to be honest, they're pretty much giving waivers to all these kids, that transfer or going to the portal. So I don't think you'll have a hard time as far as getting a waiver to play the following season. So yeah, I think it's quite possible they could go to the transfer market as far as a quarterback. I think receiver, we've already seen that. I forget the guy's name that they've already offered from Dartmouth. I think Aslan can pull that up, that they've already offered. So that kind of tells me right there, yeah, for sure, they want to get, one or two receivers from the portal that can help their offense. I think that's very important to them to get immediate help at places that they know they're just not guys there that they're just not getting enough. So I think they realize that at receiver, and certainly with the Altmyer news, you could and with the Chuba Purdy news today, with the uncertainty at quarterback of who's going to be the guy. I mean, I think everyone thinks Jordan Travis is going to be the guy as long as you can keep him healthy. Appreciate Aslan for pulling that up. With Drew Estrada is the guy I was talking about, receiver out of Dartmouth. I've watched his film, very electric slot guy. I mean, very similar. You watch his skills to that of Hunter Renfrow. I'm not saying he's Hunter Renfrow. I'm just saying he does some of the same things that he does. And FSU doesn't have a lot of guys that are possession guys that can really just get open. So he would be addition. But I think the quarterback position is just you got to have somebody that you can count on and turn to. And I could definitely see them looking in the portal for a guy that fits exactly what Norvell's looking for.
Okay, good. I just wondered, I heard about Chuba today, and with him and Jordan not being able to really stay healthy, I know us fans don't want to have to go through this next year if Luke Altmyer doesn't commit, and then we're stuck with just one quarterback because they can't stay healthy. So,
well, I don't think you're going to be stuck with
that works.
JR. I don't think you're going to be stuck with one quarterback. They're going to get somebody. They're going to get a high school kid regardless. So I feel confident that he's going to get another high school kid. But I still think you have to look at, even if you get another high school kid, you probably need to think about, hey, let's see if there's something out there on the transfer market, because there's not you can't depend on nothing against Jordan, but you can't depend on just having Jordan Travis, and then if he gets banged up, what do you do? I mean, you got to have options. So I can see them looking into that. Obviously, with Jace Blackman, he's not going to be here next year, so that gives you another spot that's available there. So, yeah, I think they could certainly look into it, regardless if they get another high school. So I do think they'll get a high school kid. I just think is there a transfer out there that's really going to catch the coach's eye? So I think they're going, but I think they're going to really study it this year.
There we go, JR.
Okay, all right, good. Well, that's all I got. Thanks for the call. Exactly, subscribe.
That's right.
Y'all keep listening to Michael. He knows what he's talking about. Let's go try to shock the world this weekend.
That's right.
There you go.
JR in Atlanta, man. Thanks for the call. We appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
850-805-5911. That is the call-in number, which is being blocked by the promo code running at the bottom of your screen. So I'll take it off for a second. But Nike 75 still up and running. We'll leave it like that so maybe some folks can get back in on the call-in line here, Michael.
Good call. Good call.
Yeah. JR's good. We like JR. JR's good people. Let's take some comments from Facebook and YouTube. Josh Stark on Facebook asking, any chance at landing Terry and Arnold out of Tallahassee?
Yeah, and that's, I mean, not to spoil my tend to watch, but that's the thing I'm kind of talking about when I say mutual interest. I don't think FSU's landing Terry Arnold. I'll just keep it to you straight, Josh. Like, I don't think he's landing him. He's not going to be in my featured 10 guys to watch. He will be the guys, some guys I watch. I really just, I mean, I haven't seen enough of this defense, that I think is going to really attract him. I mean, the one thing I watch, and this is kind of my biggest complaint of this defense when I see them is I think the line is coming around. I think the linebackers are coming around. Emmett Bryce is playing very good as far as what I've seen the last 2 weeks. I think the linebackers are coming into focus. I think personnel, moving Warner over to the Fox position has helped them. I think you're seeing more with the defensive line, but that secondary is just they're just playing so soft on coverage, and it's like I don't think that entices somebody like Terry Arnold when you watch that. And that's my biggest gripe is like you can't blitz guys or blitz 6 or 7 guys and then drop Travis J back 7 yards in coverage. Like it kind of defeats what you're doing. So I think they're going to have to go to press man, and they got to let these guys play. When they let these guys play, what happens? We saw Jarvis Brownlee get an incredible acrobatic interception in the end zone. They got to let these guys make mistakes. That's going to entice kids. I can tell you right now, recruits were jazzed up when they saw that Jarvis Brownlee pick. They're getting beat, significantly, but they got jazzed up, and that's the way you're going to grab recruits' attention, and I think even transfers' attention when they see their coaches letting them go out there play press man coverage. But I think that's something where my biggest gripe is you got to give these kids a chance. If you're going to blitz, you've got to let these guys get up on the receivers and force the quarterback to make a play. Because to be honest, most college quarterbacks, they can make 5-yard slant passes if you don't cover somebody. So you can't bet on somebody missing a wide open guy in the slant. So I think if you're going to entice recruits and you're going to entice the vision for next year, you've got to change and be more aggressive with these DBs. That's going to attract Terry Arnold. Now, I'm not saying this would happen, but if you did make a change at DC, I'm not saying you will or they won't. I have no idea. That's not my forte or anything. But I think if you did that and you brought a sexy name in or a name that is nationally known, yeah, I think that would shake up things also with some DBs and guys like Terry Arnold. But we haven't heard. I haven't heard anything. So, but at the same time, I'm just throwing in case something happens. So, but I think the main thing for recruits to see is they got to see a much more aggressive, letting these guys play aggressive man coverage.
Right on. How about this from Sean Monroe? Linebacker Andrew Jones announces recruitment is now reopened. Is Florida State the front runner? Florida State more focused on John Lewis or Patrick Payton, Michael?
I think they're focused on both John Lewis and Patrick Payton. Just to jump on Jones a little bit, his stock has dipped some. I think David Johnson was really high on him, but I think the other people in the staff, I'm not sure they were extremely high on. Obviously, if FSU pushed for him, they could get him, and they would be the front runner. But I haven't heard any of that. They haven't pushed. They haven't talked to him that much when I recently chatted with him. But I think it really just comes down to if FSU pushes. I'll check again on that tonight just to see if there's been a change. I'll check with Andrew. He's pretty straightforward and honest. He'll tell me if FSU's been active or if there's any kind of activity there. Obviously, he tells me FSU's involved, then that changes everything. And yeah, I would put FSU way up there at the top because FSU's where he wants to be. I think with John Lewis and Patrick Payton, John Lewis is a guy that can play all 3 linebacker position. I love this kid. I know he doesn't have a ranking, but he should. This kid is severely underrated. I love what he does. 6'4", 230. Can play him just at every linebacker position, just a tackling machine. He doesn't miss tackles. He's very, very detailed, and instinct-wise, he's up there with anybody. I think he can play at any of these big-time programs. I think Ole Miss, FSU already offered. And I think with Patrick Payton, he's exactly what the doctor ordered. When you need some guys that can get after the pass rusher, I think he can do that. He's a little light right now, but he's a guy that you watch his quickness, and I'm not saying he's this guy, but I'm saying he does similar things to what Brian Burns did out of high school. Now, Brian Burns is a more complete player because, he's a defensive end that was just so complete, high 4-star, but he gets off the ball like Brian does with his quickness, very tough to block because of his ability as far as a speed rusher. And that's what FSU needs. They don't have speed rushers. They need guys that can get after the quarterback. And I think he's up to like 210, 215 now. So he has added some weight. So he can bring you something. So both of those guys would be important needs to add into this class, and certainly guys that FSU is pushing hard for. I think Patrick Payton, I think he's committed to Nebraska. We've seen Nebraska improve this year. They look a little better this year than they have in previous years. But I think if FSU stays on him, that's going to be an interesting one to follow because I think there's a legit shot there.
Okay. Very well. Again, phone line is open 850-805-5911. Let's see what else we got here over on Warchant. Mike, did you ever pass that quarterback's name along who looked like a big-time running back? Remember when we did our live show? I forgot the kid's name. Remember that? That's the kid that
I did.
I forgot what school he was from.
It starts with a K that we were talking about, but I think Ridge. He was from Ridge.
Okay.
Yes, I think. It's the kid from Ridge. I forget his name.
Yeah. All right, Michael did it 7 times. Man of his word.
But if you look up our previous chat, you can find his name on there because I mentioned him in our recap.
Oh. All
right. Yes, he's a guy that they know about. I'll just put it that way. But certainly a guy that's underrated, and I don't think he's a quarterback, but I think he's definitely an explosive athlete that you can play at slot or running back, and certainly a guy I liked a lot as far as from Ridge. So, yeah, he's a guy they certainly know about.
Okay. A lot of people upset, Michael. 3 stars. They keep saying 3 stars. I'm like, do we need to? I feel like my friends that obviously care about this team went to school here at Florida State. Like they've kind of resigned themselves to what this year is going to be. Like they're not letting it ruin their Saturday any longer because they know it's just not going to work out. At what point, like, do you think? And this is not a criticism of people. But like, at what point do recruiting fans need to kind of maybe come around to the fact that it's almost just impossible to pull anybody elite right now? Like, I mean, you want to see a 5-star. I don't know what, the expectation is that a kid that's got that kind of pedigree would want to come here right now with the way things look.
No, I mean, you're right. They don't have much to sell as far as on the product. I mean, I go back to the North Carolina game. You have that to sell. Like you have that, these guys can be this good and they can flash this good. But we haven't seen a consistent mark of that, and that's kind of what recruits are mostly looking for. And let's face it, they've gotten smashed in some games, and I think they showed some fight for the first time last week where they were getting smashed, and it was the first time I'd seen them where the game was pretty much decided. But they went out there and they put up some fight. They put up some real fight, and they responded back. They punched back after getting punched in the face. But I think the big thing with this year's class, and I've said this many times, is you have to focus on the fit of what they get. I don't care if they're 3 or 4-star guy. I know people want 4 and 5-star guys. Every school's fans want 4 and 5-star guys because those guys pan out better in college. That's just a fact. I mean, people know there's a higher percentage of those guys panning out with 4 and 5-star guys than there is a 3-star guy. So I get it. I get what people want, but the first year you have to understand that you're trying to get the right fits. You're trying to get your LaDainian Webbs in there that you found that you trusted your evaluation. You're trying to get your Jackson West at tight end that fits everything of what you want in your program. You're trying to pull in Catravian Hargrove, a guy that maybe is unheralded, but a guy that fits everything that they want in this offense. Certainly Luke Altmyer would fit everything you want as a quarterback position as far as in this offense. But I think people cannot get tied into what the rankings are this year because they don't have a lot to sell as far as being sexy, at least lately. And it's going to be just them filling the gaps of what they needed with the portal, because we know they're going to be heavy in the portal. They've got to fill the gaps of what they need defensive ends, they need pass rush guys, they need some more offensive tackles. Obviously, it looks like they need some receivers since they only had 5 scholarship receivers last week. So they're going to need some playmakers to change the narrative of what this team is. And the only way you do that is you hit the portal hard, you change what your product is on the field, and then you sell your vision to these recruits that we get the right guys, we're going to do that. Now, you also need to help yourself on from a coaching perspective on both sides of the ball. And I think if they do that, they're going to get where they want to get. But I don't disagree. I'm pretty much agree with you, Aslan, that it's going to be hard for them to pull an elite guy unless we see. I'm not saying you win. Certainly, it's going to be extremely difficult to win this weekend, but you show a different product on the field. That's what it's about, is how they look on the field. And I liked what I saw in the second half, but we need to see that kind of play throughout the whole game and for these next 3 games. And that's what I'm kind of looking for. And that's what I think recruits are looking for. So if you're looking for a positive, they have to do that, so that they have to give something that recruits can cling on to.
What do you think is more likely, Michael, that they could land like a Rivals 100 guy, or maybe somebody a little bit more decorated as a grad transfer?
I think grad transfer is more likely because you have a chance of guys to come in. They know they have talent here. That's the one thing people don't recognize enough. They have talent here. They have to develop it. And these guys did a good job as far as putting together what they had in last year's class. So there's some talented guys. A lot of people snickered when they took LaDamian Webb. They're like, oh, man, well, this guy, nobody really wanted him, even though he had 1 billion yards rushing in the state of Alabama. He was the 6A player of the year. People still snickered and said, I don't know about that. So you're going to have people that question, but the staff itself just has to trust what they're doing. But I think the transfers are more important than the recruiting class. I think that's more important. I mean, obviously, I know I recover recruiting and I recover the recruiting class, and transfer just kind of foreign territory to me as far as I'm having to adjust that on the fly. But I think transfers are much more important because transfers are going to greatly affect your 2022 and 2023 recruiting. If say you get like 10 or 11 transfers, Aslan, and they're at pivotal positions, that changes your offense and defense. That's going to change the perception of recruits when they come in, because one, you're changing what the product is, and 2, they're saying these guys ain't going to be there a long time if they're grad transfers, so they can come right in and take their spot. So you have to change the narrative of the product on the field. And I think transfers is more likely than a high-level recruit.
Yeah. All right. Well said. Shout out to Gator Kirk, dropping $11 in the tip jar. We appreciate you, man.
Dollar bills, y'all.
I won't do the air horn on you, Gator. Time to move forward. He says, stop placing blame on whose fault it is. We will have to build with 3 stars before we can get the premium talent consistently. So nice sort of message to underscore what you had just said, Michael. Daniel Williams says, how do y'all think Brandon Jennings feels watching Michigan this season?
Probably when he was committed to FSU, he's probably feeling the same way of watching Michigan. I mean, they've been dreadful, probably worse than even FSU when you watch them. And the thing I'll say about FSU that I like compared to Michigan, at least FSU is trying to do different things. At least FSU is adjusting their personnel. They're adjusting different things that they can do and looks that they can do. We saw obviously Warner, the Fox. Steven Dix is now starting on defense. We've seen some different changes on offense that they do as far as the way they attack. But with Michigan, they're just rolling with the same thing every week. They're not really changing anything, and they're just getting slaughtered every week. And so I think what way Jennings is feeling that it's probably his recruitment's probably not completely done, but FSU's not doing anything to impress him either. So it's not like anything's going to shift his mind because Michigan stinks. I mean, FSU's defense stinks. So, I mean, they have to go out there and show something different. And it kind of goes back to what I said before, hypothetically, if you got a new DC in there, or you did something to change your defense, maybe play press coverage and show different, I think you could get back in it, but you have to do something that's going to ignite the defensive side of the ball.
Let's take another message from Daryl. This time he comes via YouTube. Wonders how many transfers do you think Florida State will take this year, Michael?
As many as it takes. There's not a number. I don't think there's a number for me, Daryl. I think it's just mainly they're going to take as many as it takes to fill the gaps of what they need, and they got a lot of gaps to fill. So I think it's going to – I have a gut feeling it's going to be more than last year. That's all I can really – my prediction as far as that goes. I don't know how many, but there's certainly going to be a lot. I think you're going to – Yeah, I'd kind of drop this nugget. It's not really a nugget. I've mentioned this before, but I think you're going to have them take transfers that they would ordinarily probably take a high school kid. They might pass on a recruit just to get a transfer that's better, that's going to help them right now. So I could see them doing that a little more with this 2021 class, that there might be guys they're evaluating that they probably won't take these guys, and they'll probably take the transfer that can immediately help them. So there's going to be a lot, and it's going to be a very active transfer market. We've already seen that with them doing the early offer to wide receiver from Dartmouth. I mean, the fact that they're doing this early, that tells you how serious they're going to be about that transfer portal. So that's something to watch, that I think you're going to see them pass on some kids in high school compared to what they can get in the transfer market.
How about this, man? Welcome to the party. Pillar of the program, James B. in the house. He's a founding member of the fraternity Phi Air Horn. Let's get it, man. $50, James, man. We appreciate that. Michael, how long will it take for Norvell to develop the necessary relationships around the state to have a shot at top recruits? Not just players, but high school coaches as well. What's your best guess?
Well, I think the high school coaches really like him. I think they're disappointed in the results, but I think they really are sold on his development and what he does with his culture. They like the things that he does inside the program. They're very prepared. They're very they understand what they're taking over. But I think it comes down to, this is why it's important to hit that transfer market. Is it's not going to take long if you go in there and say you have a good transfer market year. There's not going to take long for them to look like a much different team on the field, because they already have talent around them. You add in certain spices in there as far as this team that have weaknesses. It could change it next year. I think 2022, we've already seen there's a different surge as far as in that class, as far as the feelings around FSU. I think there's more guys that they feel like once they get these other players in, or once they have a year in their belt, these coaches with development, there's going to be a much different looking team. I think 2022 is going to be a much better class for them, where they can go after elite guys. I think it happen next year. But this all goes back to the importance of the transfer market, of what that can do to shift FSU's how fast this thing can go depends on the transfer. If they get a lot of good transfers, I'd say right next year, James, that I think they can have shots at top recruits. But first thing you have to do is change the narrative of your program and the narrative of what you show on the product on the field. And so I think once you do that, that's where it's going to really shift.
Wow. James B., man, we appreciate you as always, man. Very thankful for the generous tip.
Absolutely.
Phone lines are open, 850-805-5911. In case people at home might have been wondering, Michigan's total defense is 78th in the nation. Not good. Florida State's is 101, 101st out of 126 teams.
Bad's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, bad's bad, and neither one of them will look good at all. So I will say at least FSU, there's been flashes of their offense. At Michigan, there hasn't been any flashes. So I think if you look at the offensive numbers, when you look at the rankings for the offensive numbers, I think FSU would be higher. So I think if you're looking at that, but if you're looking at defense, both defenses has not been played good. 70 something and 100 is bad any way you look at it.
Kevin Hickson says changing the narrative starts with a change at defensive coordinator.
There you go.
Gibbs says, Mike, what's your true feelings on Fuller? I don't know if he's talking about Quayshawn Fuller.
I think he's talking about Adam Fuller. Here, and I discussed this a little bit with Aslan, during the show. Here's the thing. I like certain personnel things he's done. I like the things that he does, that they've done with the line. I think the line, nothing against Marvin, but Marvin, we found out that Marvin wasn't fully healthy, and it showed in the game. And when they took him out, they put Fabian Levitt in there, and they had this line that they have together now. I see pressure all the time. I think the linebackers are playing better in the last 2-3 weeks. I think they've done really good. My biggest issue, Shane, is with that secondary. Either these guys can't cover or you're not letting them try to cover. So you have to let these guys cover. Based on what I've seen, you're not letting these guys cover. They're playing soft coverage. We see it at times where they play press, where we saw the big Jarvis Brownlee play, which I'm very high on Jarvis. Jarvis is a guy that I think he got named a starting boundary corner now this week. So that's very good news because I think he's the other best cover corner on this team. I think Asante is played out of his mind. He's doing everything he can do. But I think in the secondary with safety, I mean, you got to let Travis Jay cover guys. You got to let these guys get up on these receivers because you don't have a chance. And that's my biggest complaint is I just doesn't make a lot of sense to me to blitz guys and lay back your DBs. Like that it's ultra counterproductive. It just doesn't work. So that's my biggest complaint. Now, I like the personnel moves he's made. I like what they've done with the linebackers. I like what they've done with the defensive line. They're getting the most out of what they got at every position except the secondary. So I think they're going to have to adjust some stuff of what they're doing in that secondary. But that's my true feelings. And here's the thing. I've said this also several times. You cannot put this all on Fuller. Like they have players that there are limitations in this roster. They have limitations. But my thing is when you have a secondary like that, you're just going to have to let these guys play. If they got a chance, if you give up a 60-yard play and you're playing up man, then so be it. But you got to just deal with the mistakes. And that's kind of my feeling on Fuller.
Right on, man. Well said. This is a little bit team, a little bit recruiting, Michael. It's a really good question, actually. Daniel Williams, really, who's going to start defensive end next year? I don't think Josh Kando would come back, but who knows? Maybe if he can make it through a full year healthy. And I think Adam Fuller even said when we spoke to him on Wednesday that, he wants to kind of improve on his reaction time and getting off the ball. So maybe another year of that. Janaris, I don't know how many NFL teams will be lining up to take him, but I don't know what another year could do. But it'd be hard to imagine. Only thing that could hurt Janaris Robinson would be if he actually got hurt. I don't think another season would affect his draft stock. But man, if those two guys, which are draft eligible, leave, what we got Josh Griffiths and Quayshawn Fuller has not even seen the field since Labor Day.
Now you see why I'm talking about the transfer market, guys. This is kind of coming back to that. First of all, nobody on this team should be leaving early, to be honest. Outside of Asante Samuel, I can't think of anybody production-wise that should be leaving that has done enough to really entice NFL teams. So, Janaris Robinson's thinking about going pro. It's like, I don't know what to say, dude. No, there's not enough. You need to play. You need to play another year. I think even with Kando, you need to play another year because you've been banged up and you played all year. Yes, I know you had a really good spring, but that's another guy that probably should come back. Will they? We don't know. But this makes it even more imperative of why they have to hit that transfer market and get several guys, as far as pass rushers that are going to help them. So I don't know what their starters are going to look like. It might be, 2 or 3 new starters. I do think the defensive end from St. Augustine that's committed to FSU, I think he's a guy. I think Byron Turner, I think that's his name. I think he's a guy that's going to come in there and play really early. I think he is a pass rushing fiend. He can get after it. He's going to play very early. I think guys like Shampre Jackson's going to play very early, although I look at him more of an inside guy. So I think those two guys alone. I mentioned Patrick Payton. He's a guy that can help you as far as just getting at the pass rusher, even if you play him on third down, if he's a guy that you pull. But I think in the end, it's going to come down to that transfer market because I think a lot of these transfer market guys are going to play right away. That's why it's essential to get somebody out of that market.
Yeah. Larry Brown asked a pretty good question. Michael, why would any grad transfer pick FSU with the product on the field? To pick a losing program seems like a terrible idea.
It's not a terrible idea if you see the talent around you, that they have talent. So if you put you're on a more talented team and you have an up and rising coach, that's exciting. you can go in there and you can change your career. There's a lot of kids that have gone from average teams to up and rising teams. So I think it's a good idea, Larry, just because we saw it even with you look when Grimes from Ohio State, he wasn't doing squat at Ohio State. He went to Florida. Everyone kind of laughed, and he's been pretty solid with them. And at the time, Florida wasn't like tearing the world off the roof off the building when he transferred. So you go there so you can change the product of the team, and you see as a vision of, this is a place I can really excel. My fit here is really good. So if your fit's there, you're going to help your NFL stock, you're going to help this program, and you're going to change the narrative. It does not take long to change the narrative of a program. Everyone thinks like FSU's like a million miles away, because I know it looks that way when you look so bad on the field, but we've seen in a short time when you have a good transfer year, and Miami's a good example of that. When you have that product, it can quickly change your team. I mean, Miami lost to FIU, Duke, and Georgia Tech last year. Like
Louisiana Tech too.
In Louisiana, they've never lost in their history to FIU, to my knowledge, or at least since I've been alive. So they've already changed that alone with that one transfer season. So you can change that. That's why a grad transfer will go to a place like FSU. Plus, let's face it, FSU is one of the most traditionally rich programs in the country. It's not going to take much if you get the right guys in there to turn this around. So this isn't like you're joining a middle tier program that's never been good. This is a program that has high expectations every year and a high standard. So if you get the right guys, you can quickly turn around, the product on the field.
Look how good and pivotal, Devontae Love Taylor was to Florida State's success on offense.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of that obviously is Jordan Travis's credit, but I mean, Devontae Love Taylor is your best offensive lineman. I mean, it was kind of like a perfect storm for him. He's a guy that's from the state of Florida and grew up a Florida State fan. I know people keep tossing around all these names in the transfer portal. This guy's entered the portal. This guy's entered the portal. It's like, well, there needs to be some sort of connection, some sort of previous relationship, or a guy that's originally from Florida that's been playing in UCLA or something. So
yeah, that's why we've started a list. We got it running on the Premier Recruiting Board. I started that the other day. I really don't put guys in there unless I know they have a previous connection with the staff, or that I know they're interested in FSU, that they were previously interested, like John Dunmore from.
Yeah, I saw that the other day. How's our guy doing? How's our guy coming on?
Yeah, so the guy we actually went to see, we did a feature on him for the spring tour. Of course, he didn't go to FSU because that's what we do when we go on the road. But FSU is his favorite school growing up. So, that's a school you have to consider. He likes Dugans a lot. He likes, I think he likes what their offense does. So those are guys that I list. I don't just list everybody. So I agree with you, Aslan. You have to have connections with kids. Either there's a previous relationship with the new staff, or there's a previous relationship where he's visited FSU and he's checked them out. So I think that's a big deal. As Aslan shows, some of our great times with John Dunmore over there at Chaminade High School. And
look at that, feels like a lifetime ago, Michael, right?
It does. It does. It was so hot that day too. But this kid's phenomenal. I mean, I think he would add a lot to your roster, and certainly a great kid. I got to know John pretty well throughout the process. I think he would add a lot to what you do as far as in your receiver room, and certainly a guy that can be explosive. They need explosive playmakers, and certainly we've shown that the guys they've offered the last few weeks and guys that are in the transfer portal, I think they're going to go after these guys.
I wonder when we're going to get back out on the road, Michael. I know you were on the road. You went down and hung out with Chambray, but
yeah.
Hopefully, by next spring, hopefully we can kind of maybe get a little bit back to the good old times.
Yeah, I love those things, and that was my biggest disappointment this year, was that we couldn't do this, because this is our favorite feature, guys. Because we really,
Who else does this?
Nobody. Like we get to personally know these recruits, and you just see different sides of them that you don't see, and the recruits love these things. They just eat them up. They're like. They want to see what the thing looks like on YouTube, and they just eat it up. And it's just good for me to get a personal side of these recruits. So We hope we get that going. But back to the portal's big, and you got to get guys that that there's mutual interest, and there's a mutual chance, and there's a connection. And I think I've listed a bunch of those guys the last 2 or 3 days. Go on the PRB and check it out, guys. There's a ton of guys on there.
How about this one? This is a good question. I think I haven't heard us talk about this young man in a minute. How solid is Byron Turner?
I think he's very solid. I think Sam from Rivals covered that. He covers the Midwest and
Spiegelman. Is it Spiegelman?
Yeah, Spiegelman. Yeah, Spiegelman. Sam Spiegelman. Sorry, he's been on him for a while. He's locked in. I mean, I think he's right up there with Hunter Washington. Which, by the way, Rivals had a really good feature on Hunter Washington. He's going to come over, see FSU. He's very loyal. I think Byron's the same way. He loves FSU. That was the place he wanted to be. This kid, I love his takeoff, the way he gets off the line of scrimmage. Like he had 5 sacks in one game. He's everything that FSU needs at that end position. But I do think he's pretty comfortable in his pledge with FSU.
All right, good. That's good. We need you guys to stick around. We don't need anybody leaving.
No, need additions, not subtractions.
Yeah. Okay. All right, man. Well, things are winding down on YouTube. Call lines are quieting down a bit. Michael, so what else is going on over on Warchant.com's premium recruiting board?
Well, like I said, we had put, before this chat started, I put 3 nuggets on there. I might put 1 or 2 more, and then I'm going to get into all your questions on the board. I'll address every single one of them like I always do every week. I'll even get to the ones later that you post later the day or tomorrow, and I still go back in there and I'll answer them. And then, like I said, we have the 10 to watch feature. I think you people will enjoy that's coming up. And then later after that, I'll probably, some of the guys that I put in the 10 to watch, I'll probably hit up those guys for just more of a prospect update and see how things are going. Obviously, I'll keep tabs on Luke Altmyer, see how that develops and see what it goes. Obviously, FSU needs to change the momentum there in that one, since they're a threat there. So I've reached out to Luke. So far, I've not been able to talk to him. So he's declined to talk to me so far. Not declined personally, just hasn't answered. So that also leads to my concern. But I will continue to try, guys. I'm continuing to try to get up with Luke, see if he wants to talk about it. But as I usually do with these recruits, I give them space. I let them talk at their own leisure. I don't call them 100 times like maybe some other places do. I'm going to reach out to them a few times, and then they can talk to me whenever they feel comfortable doing it. But I will stay on top of Luke as much as I can, and that's kind of the stuff that's going on. And we'll just see what happens this weekend. I don't have a good feeling about this weekend, obviously, but as far as recruits coming to watch the game, Kirk, I don't know yet. I would imagine some local guys. But certainly, I would imagine there's a few others that we don't know about that will probably go on their own since it's Clemson. But I don't know any particulars as far as specific guys yet. But we'll see what happens this weekend. Like I said, the next 3 weeks are going to be big for them. It's going to be big for them in Luke Altmyer's recruitment, because if you show something in that Clemson game and you show some fight, that will give him something to kind of gauge it on, and not just him, but other recruits. So I think these next 3 weeks are very important just for FSU to show the quality of what they're going to be and what guys they can count on.
Okay. One last question before we go. Daniel Williams, how much would a Clemson upset help recruiting?
Daniel, it would be massive. It would help them a lot. But let's face reality, too. The chances of that happening are probably as good as me winning the Florida lottery. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what they do. We'll see how this team responds. We didn't give them any chance against North Carolina. I know this is a different animal in Clemson because they're one of the top teams. I think them and Alabama, in my opinion, are the 2 top teams in the country. But nothing against Notre Dame. I know Notre Dame beat them, but they have Trevor Lawrence, I think, and they missed a lot of defensive stars in that game. So I think you come in there, I think Clemson is so talented, but it's football, man. So we'll see what happens and see how they respond.
There we go. Head over to warchant.com's premium recruiting board. Again, that promo code's Nike75, $75 for an annual membership. All the access to warchant.com's premium recruiting boards, the Tribal Council Forum. Get Michael's freaking attention pretty much every single second of the day. And a $75 e-card to Nike. Head over to the PRB if you want more recruiting information, because Michael will be there. He practically lives there. Michael, it's been good catching up, man. Have a good one. Let's do this again sometime.
You got it, bud.